My father did everything they told him to, lined up and took every single jab. And every time I beg him, Dad, please just think, he'd just laugh and call me crazy. We spread his ashes at his favorite park. I have to say I thought I was out of tears, until his sister whispered into my ear, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Tanya was a nurse working in the bush. She didn't want to take it herself, but because she loved the people out there, she decided to take a chance. Now she's going through a metamorphosis, because Pfizer gave her multiple sclerosis. Now she lives with her mother in the city, like a ghost watching us all forget her. And while she is still too angry for tears, all I could hear in her burning eyes was a broken heart warning me, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to our weeping years. And no one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. If vaccines are safe and effective, then you must be the thing that's wrong. You're not worthy of state recognition. You're not worthy of any compensation. Not even worthy of a human singing your song. She was 92 and dying in a nursing home, and because her family said no to the jabs, none of them were allowed to see her, so it was clear she would die alone. But then one of her older granddaughters took matters into her own hands. After dark she would break into the home and sneak down the corridors like a thief. Then while the carers were all watching TV, she would climb in bed and spoon her grandmother. She would get into her grandmother's bed and spoon. And even now I can see them there, huddled together like babes lost in the woods, as we and our endless madness hurricane around them, as our madness hurricanes. Oh, can't you hear our gods whispering? If you guys don't find a way to conquer fear, then you're just gonna keep traveling down deeper into the weeping years. Deeper and deeper and deeper into the weeping years. Into the weeping years. And no one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. Look around at all these tumultuous years, for lying has replaced the truth. And the one lie that they need you to sell is that the system cares for you. And the one lie that they need you to sell to your children is that the system cares for you.
Boom. That's Jan Murphy asked me to get rid of the other version of that, which was a bit of a hard rocking version. Jan didn't like it. So we did last night, I did an updated version. And I really like it, and the haunting line is not even worthy of a human singing your song. And just to say something really special, Emily James from the Emily James Trio has actually put her human voice to the farmer's wife song we have about the farmer's wife who lost all her family. So that is going to be coming out soon. So we've got, I wrote it in poetry, got it in AI wrote it in song, and now humans are turning it into a human song. So who saw that coming? Anyway, let's bring in my lovely friend. This is Black Bee, and as a bad cop, good cop.
Good cop. Yeah.
My
Michael,
brother,
all
how have
right.
you been since we've seen you 2 weeks? I know there's things been happening we can't talk about now, and you have my condolences for that. Also, the condolences for the loss of your friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll just take a second just to name him so that
Sure.
those that did love him. Yeah, we've lost an awesome member of the freedom community. So Sean O'Shane sadly passed away on Saturday, shortly after his mother died. Unvaccinated freedom family, and just tragic. He was such a lovely, strong, decent, well-intentioned guy. The world's a poorer place. Not him in there. So our hearts and love go out to his wonderful wife Kim and his family. So there you go.
Think of the family though. You've lost the mother, and then a few days later you lose the son. You know, I have heard that happen before, but it's brutal. Brutal.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I really have a saying. I don't know if you've told it. I've got a real belief that God is a writer, and even though he has a great sense of humor, he loves his tragedies. He just
Yeah.
loves them because yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, and the reality is it's ahead of all of us. We don't know how long we've got, but yeah.
Do you ever think about it?
Oh, a lot. Yeah. I don't fear death. I just fear the manner of my death, and so that has left me
Thanks, Chris.
I'm quite a fan of genuine voluntary euthanasia. I don't think I like the way they're doing it in Canada, and I'm not a fan of the way. Yeah, we're not doing it well in Australia. I don't think it's. But I'm not a fan of suicide, and we might get onto that subject at some stage. I understand suicide, but psychologically, it's it's a challenge. But so yeah, I think about death a lot, and I'm actually looking forward to the next part of the journey because I definitely believe there is something ahead of us beyond the grave, and unlike my wonderful dad and my beautiful son, who both went to their deaths as atheists, believing in nothing, if they're right, then I won't know enough to be disappointed. I'll just die, and my ridiculous beliefs will die with me. But I got this. One of the many things that brings a smile to my face for my dad and my son is that if I'm right, they're somewhere together now, working out how they're going to appropriately apologise to me when it's my turn to go there.
Good luck with that. I was at the beach the other day with this woman from basically Hong Kong, China, Chinese-owned Hong Kong, and talking about life and death. And we were on the ocean. That's where we met her down there. And I said, look at these waves coming in. There's these beautiful waves. They're just stunning. And we're ignoring them because we just see them all the time. We take it for granted. It's just a wave. But just this one incredible wave came in, washed up all the beach. And I said to her, one day that wave's going to crash and we won't be here. We'll be gone. But this beautiful planet will just won't miss a beat. And, and it really, what I learned about death was when I was working in nursing homes and I saw the end, I thought, we're living life wrong. We're living life like, oh, we get to there and then there's a ribbon, there's congratulations, and that's when we'll start living when we're in our 80s and going around caravan. No, the living is now. The living is you're in the finishing line right now. If you're alive now, you're on the finishing line. Celebrate now. And I think it's got the whole thing down wrong. I realize why it's there, but the older I get, the more I really believe that's the case. And the other beautiful thing about nursing homes, which is one of the, I just used to adore doing this. We have this world where we've got all this, I think I've told you this, all this material wealth. But when I used to ask the old ladies, what's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Babies, straight up babies. That's it.
Yeah.
Babies. There's never any other answer. Babies. So yeah.
I remember studying at university, and we were talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most people have come across that. It's a triangle, and at the bottom are your fundamental needs for shelter and food and clothing and those sort of things. And once you've had all of those needs met, you can move up to the next level of needs, which is intimacy and relationships. And then the next level is social and success. And you work your way up. And at the very top of the pyramid is a thing called self-actualization. And it's an unprovable concept. It's speculation on Maslow's part. And he argues that when you've got all of your needs met, you get to a point where you become disinterested in your needs, and you therefore you can lose everything, and it means nothing to you. Because you become this, self-actualized. And interestingly, two of the examples that he gave of potentially self-actualized human beings were Jesus Christ and Hitler. Now I'm very Jewish, very much out.
No wonder that theory took time. Yeah. Wow, you're linking those two together. Wow.
I mean, but I think Christ is a really good example, because if what we believe about Christ is true, he was the ultimate freedom fighter, and he
100%.
The Last Supper and his interview with Pontius Pilate were both indicators that he knew if he continued following the path he was on, he would die a terrible death, and he just continued because he was self-actualized. He actually didn't care about death. Now, I want to live for a lot longer.
I just want to challenge you there. If he'd chickened out, then everything he'd worked for would be meaningless.
Yep.
The only path he had to give his life worth was to do that. That's the bravery of it. It's like that film. There's a film out called From High Wire called where some scientist did a study of vaccines and said there was proof that the vaccines were harming children, and he wouldn't publish it because he didn't want to ruin his career.
Yep.
So he's the opposite of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I mean, and there are lots of examples of people like that. You had one on Sunday night. Ros Nealon Cook is somebody who.
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah.
Now she was left with no option but to do what she did, even though it imperiled her and her daughter's financial well-being. And the ridiculous thing is, what Ros did was actually mandated by law. The rules governing the health professionals in 2021 said that if you had any reason to fear that a child or children were at risk in any way, you had a legal obligation to declare it. And so she began her now infamous video by saying, I am meeting my legal obligations by explaining why I believe children are at risk with masks, lockdown, social distancing, and foolishly she included well-intentionedly, she included the reservations about the pace at which the injections had been produced and were being rolled out. And my profession is not qualified to offer medical advice in any way, and I think that's what they eventually nailed her. But in everything that she said in her video, including the well-intentioned observation on the rapidity with which the injections were brought to market, she's been completely exonerated, and yet she's still blackballed. It's
this is that reminds me, actually, she's done all these interviews with us supporting things, but I haven't actually done an interview where we hear her story. So I might reach out to her, and because she's amazing. She is amazing.
I suspect she might be a bit tired of telling her story.
I
showed.
I haven't heard it, so she can tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's things get lost. There's another thing I wanted to bring up though before I show you something, and this is only something small, so I don't want this to be the whole show because I'm going to talk about anything else. But I realize, I think one thing stopping people really living their life to the fullest is the pursuit of happiness. I don't think life is about pursuing happiness. I think life should be about pursuing living itself. And living, you can't be happy all the effing time. It's boring. That's, think of all the great plays, all the literature, all the great songs. None of them would have been written if everybody was blissfully happy. There's great learning that comes from that. And so there's things like that. So I'm not saying I don't want to be happy, but it's not saying like there's a destination, I'll reach it, I'll find the right woman, I'll do this, I'll get the right house and this, and then suddenly I'm just I'm on a rocking chair and I'm, g'day, Lens. How you going? Good, mate. I'm really good, mate. No. But the living, I think, if you're on the other side of life, say like your father who's waiting for you and you're wrong, if you're on the other side of life, I think you'd be yearning to live, even the painful stuff and this and this. You'd want this, exhilarating experience, even though it breaks you and you're still alive. This is living. It's mediocrity that I struggle with, the day to day. And that's why I wanted to show you this. My life has changed dramatically.
Oh,
this is tonight's studio. Watch this. Oh, it's no sound. Hold on. There. And it's a bit too expensive to stay in caravan parks every night. So you look for free camps. And this is where we are tonight. Here's the full moon. And we're on the top of a mountain near Tenterfield, or actually not near Tenterfield, we're about 130 k's away. And there's only been one ute pass and one motorbike. So they say it's overpopulated. We've been here literally all day and nothing at all, except nature and now, of course, the beautiful moon. So we're doing a talk to Lindsay tonight. It's called Surviving the Weeping Years. But last night's show... So that's an ad we've got to play later. So, but the thing is, I realized how rich am I? I'm surrounded by this nature, this orchestra of insects. I've got a Starlink. I've got a generator. I've got to move tomorrow because for some reason we run out of water. But apart from that, tonight, I'm in a good place. Tomorrow, who knows? The bumper might fall off the bus or anything like this. What's that?
Okay, can I respond to that, Michael?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I almost never use the word happy in my therapeutic work. And I'm very open with her. And often if people say, I just want to be happy, I say, hang on, I've got to stop you there. If you just want to be happy, then you'll live a very narrow, shallow, disappointing life. Because happiness is a part of the mix. What I'm interested in, and part of the ethos of the therapeutic approach that I favour, which I'm what's called eclectic. I take from all sorts of things from Freud, all the way through to the most recent things. But acceptance and commitment therapy is the main backbone of what I do. Yeah. And one of its premises is that the aim of ACT is to allow you to live a rich, full, and meaningful life. And if you can achieve that, and ACT is called acceptance and commitment theory, which means you've got to accept that life is tough, and you've got to commit yourself to deal with the tough parts as best you can and to exploit the best parts as best you can. That will lead you to a rich, full, and meaningful life. And the side effect of having a rich, full, and meaningful life tends to be happiness.
I get it.
So that means I like the grief of losing Sean on Saturday. That grief is tempered with the joy of having known him and having engaged and respected him and recognised the contributions that he brought to the world and his the legacy that he's left behind and his genes and his memory and all those kind of things. And so it's accepting the harshness and the tragedy, but committing to having a rich, full, and meaningful life in the face of that. It's not adversity that is the problem. It's the manner in which we deal with adversity. And unfortunately, the counter side of that is oftentimes people won't stop and look around the mountaintop as you did in that video. They take the joy and the bliss and the magical moments. They not only take them for granted, they don't even notice them. And that's where Maslow's hierarchy, if you can get to self-actualization, your day can be enriched and fulfilled by seeing a spider's web covered in dew, or a fresh rose opening up, or seeing the curve of your wife's chin as she sips on her cup of tea. Now, there's 100 million things that can bring a smile to your face. There might be 100,000 things that can bring a frown to your face or a tear to your eye, but I think we've got an obligation as the only intelligent species in real terms to exploit our lives as much as we can.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Jason. Yeah, they're all here, mate. I found them. They're all missing in Australia. This must be like an insect sanctuary. There's thousands of insects here. Butterflies, like all different colors, and things in the bush, yowies, you name it, they're here. So that's beautiful, Lindsay. That's really beautiful, because it's, as I'm getting older now and realizing I have a limited time left on the planet, I'm closer to the grave than I am to the womb. And there is gratitude now despite all the losses. I'm still alive. I'm still here. There's a gratitude. And when you're driving around in the bus through all this beauty, it's quite staggering. You know, it really makes you humbled. You think, wow, I actually sometimes wonder if God created us just to have an audience, you know?
Well, that's a great sentiment. I like that as a thought. That's brilliant.
The dinosaurs didn't like the sunsets, you know, that you didn't have Tyrannosaurus Rex going, oh, look at that. Look at the sun, you see the moon? No, they didn't do that. To be eating each other. You know, there's where we've actually reached a point where we can stop and look at the wonder of the world. I mean, there's this forest is so full of old trees, and some of the trees are just have staghorns growing all the way up, and the evening sun or the afternoon sun was just dappling all the way through them, and the camera can't capture the beauty. And then Callie saw a face in this old tree just because the sun was hitting in the proper way. We'll put it up tomorrow. When we walked back, it was gone. So we just hit it at the right moment with the right sun in the right place. Bang, we see this incredible thing is gone. And we're kind of the same. You know, blink and we're gone, like your friend. And we try to hold on to the Charlie Kirk, but he's gone. You know? It's incredible, really. Life is just right.
And I'm not willing to let go of the idea that there is some form of intent behind it. I don't believe in a God that's pulling the strings, but I think the universe has been beautifully crafted, and the Earth is a tiny microcosm of brilliance and beauty within that. And we are individually miracles, the way our bodies work, the way our eyes work. I remember when we did physiological psychology at university, we spent a month on how our eyes work physically and psychologically. And I was a pretty capital A agnostic at that stage. I was begrudgingly acknowledging that there's probably a God, but I don't need to have any engagement with him. But after a month of just looking at how our eye works, I've openly said to my classmates, I think I believe in God. I don't think, I cannot construct any logical scenario, because there's about 5 different functions in our eye, and the absence of any one of them renders us blind. And so, so you can't imagine an evolutionary process that allows you to gradually build one thing on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, which ultimately is an eye which has got depth vision, color vision, a pupil that can contract and expand to allow for too much and not enough light. And almost every other animal on Earth has got the same visual apparatus, some better than us, some not as good as us. There are some animals that see in infrared. There are some animals that see by scent. There are some animals that see by sound echoes. But the reality is,
there's a moth. So sorry to interrupt. This is how there is a moth. The bats chase the moths. And there is a moth that does something, makes a sound which affects the bat's ecosystem. So I can't find it. You know, and you like look at the platypus. No offense, but the platypus looks like an art project from a kid. Look what I did. I've got a duck's bill and this, and it lays eggs going.
And you mentioned butterflies before. Do you know why butterflies have an iridescence on their wings?
No.
It's because they have apertures that are so, you need an electron microscope to be able to perceive them. And they are so small that when light enters them, the light changes and it becomes something that we struggle to reproduce. But at that microscopic level, those beautiful, simple animals have got a sophisticated capacity to change the way light refracts, and it results in the beautiful blue or orange or red iridescent sheen. It's you can pragmatically say that 100 million years ago there was a black butterfly, and it brushed itself against a flower or something, and all of a sudden it was more attractive to the girl butterflies, and so it had more babies, and you can build that argument, but oh my God, who would be interested? I think it's much more viable to say, what a brilliant piece of design.
Yeah, that's right. And there's look, I actually think that's a really interesting discussion to get someone up here who's pro-evolution. I do think things can happen with species, like dogs, you can change dogs and stuff. But, since Darwin came out with this theory, where is some brand new species that's like no other species? Where's the new platypus? Where's the new echidna? Where's the new elephant? Where's the new anything?
Well,
In a
few short 100 years, we have changed. We've, our height and our musculature and our body weight has changed reasonably dramatically. I've only got an anecdotal report of this, but my dad visited a beautiful castle in England, and he commented on how many suits of armor they had for children. And the guide said, no, they were the actual knights. That's the size the knights were.
Oh my God, they're tiny little people.
Yeah, we're about that much taller than the tallest person in the 14th century.
I'm probably the same size.
Even you and I would be taller than
a giant then. How big this guy is. He must be 5 foot at least. Get him on our basketball team.
Get out of here, you freak.
So going back to what you're saying, just with the weeping ears, this gratitude, which I never used to have, but this real wonder and gratitude of the world is helping me cope better with all the obstacles I face. And it is that. And it's just, I think if you get outside and put your phone down and get outside, and I have been trying to do that more, and you just look at the grandeur and the wonder. Sometimes if you get up in the morning, even if you're heading to work, and you look at the clouds look like a constable painting. And they're just there, and they're never going to be that way again, ever in existence. You're probably going to get that cloud. You're watching as a one-off unique masterpiece. You're so used to it, you think, oh, the world sucks. This is, that's why I tell people come up. Somebody said it to me the other day. He said, oh, this is hell. I said, well, if it's hell, someone used heaven to paint it. And it's, this is how we are. And anyway, so this is my technique.
Look at the tip of your fingers.
Is the context of the show.
Look at the tip of your fingers, Michael. There is a unique fingerprint on the end of every one of your fingers.
I know.
Not only do you not have two of the same fingerprint, there isn't another one. There isn't another one of these fingerprints anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? How can that? Yeah. How can that be?
Yeah.
So anyway. All right, so navigating the weeping ears.
To tell you something weird with that, with that fingerprints, I was 15 years old with some mates in a market in Perth, right? And there was a palm reader there who was like in his 50s. And I just thought, bullshit. So everyone was sitting down going, yeah. Anyway, so I sat down with him. I went like this. And he's looking and looking, and he's just going through the same rigmarole. I'm just thinking, bullshit. And then he came across this really strange fingerprint that I hadn't even realized I had. I'd never seen it. And it's this strange, it's a bizarre looking one once he showed me, and he looked at him and, hang on. And he looked at it, and he got his glasses and he looked at it, and he came back, and then he went away, and he came back with this big book, and he was going through the book, and I was sitting there, and he's going, "You're going to make a living as an artist." And I had no art apart from writing, which I didn't show anyone. He goes, "Yeah, you're going to be a significant artist. You're making a living as an artist." I said, "Doing what?" He goes, "I don't know." I'm like, 15 years old. I was just trying to get laid. I just wanted a girlfriend. Doing what, man? And so, but that was really strange things like that. And you meet Indians and other races, they're fully into it. Numerology, this, they soak it all up. But our culture sort of goes, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Yep. So there's a few things like that have thrown me, Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, back to the show.
Well,
31 minutes in, and we're finally starting the proper conversation.
So the thread that's weaving through our recent past conversations is the idea of grieving a loss of innocence, and I think the weeping years is representative of a recognition of the awfulness of life, that that the yin and yang of life. And I agree with you earlier when you said that most people are looking for happiness, not realizing that if that was what they achieved, they'd have a pretty pointless existence.
Yeah.
And so it occurred to me that we'd spent very little time talking about the phenomenon of trauma, and the idea that we were discussing last time about this Cartesian crisis of suddenly realizing that you've got two opposing pieces of knowledge available to you, and they can't coexist. That either the government is trustworthy and you should believe everything they say, or they're a bunch of lying, self-centered, rapacious thieves. There isn't a middle truth. One of them is true. And
is that a trick question?
And so the realization, and we've talked about last time that most people deal with it through denial, and what that's doing is dampening down the cost of living. That what I think the kind of revelation that you're describing and exploring and sharing with us today is that the pain of life is what it to be able to get the joy of life. And I have known people in my life that appear to have been blessed. They appear to have met their high school sweetheart, and they've had what seems to be an easy ride. And but the reality is you've only got to know them long enough to realize that there is either a skeleton in the closet, or they eventually hit a wall of some kind. And that's really tough. That's where the weeping years come in, where you can't remain in denial, and the awakening, the reality that that something awful is likely to happen to you is very, very confronting. And I thought we might spend a few minutes talking about the idea of trauma, if that's okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I know how much you hate to talk, Michael. So so I thought I might just start by giving you an opportunity to define trauma for me. If you could, what do you think trauma is?
Oh, well, there's various degrees. You know what I mean? There's the traumas which are acts of God, things you can't control, losing loved ones, car accidents, and stuff like that. Then there's the trauma of things you can control, or trauma of things that you've done wrong, which has caused pain to loved ones and burnt bridges, and you can't get back because you burnt them, and you have to deal with the loss of that. And so there's trauma. There is a trauma too, like you're saying, the loss of innocence, when you've built your construct of how you think the world works, and then something comes along and it all collapses like a house of cards, and you're realizing, oh, that person wasn't like that. That person's like this. So did that person, or did that thing exist, or or was I in denial? And then there's the trauma, which I think Australia has been through, which is the loss of our deep foundation of our culture, of who we actually thought we were. These tough larrikins who only obeyed the government if we didn't want to fine, or when we thought about it, in actual fact, we were completely compliant and we dobbed each other in. The mateship just went out the window because we were scared of a flu. And so there's the trauma of getting over that. And I think the last trauma which I've actually found getting off the internet for patches of time is really helping, is this doom scrolling. You sit there. It's bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. You just go down and down and down. And it's affecting you without you knowing it. And so there's stuff like that. And then war and other things. So how do I do?
Not bad. I appreciate you falling into. I appreciate you falling into my trap, though, Michael. Because
I thought I heard a snap of the door. What?
So what you've I think very eloquently and accurately done is you've described individual traumas from the trivial to the major, and you've described large scale traumas. But interesting, they're all negative. They're all harmful. They're all terrible things. What about the trauma of birth, or the trauma of falling in love?
I've never associated trauma with falling in love. Can drive you crazy. Yeah. Falling out of love is more traumatic.
Let me float a pocket definition of trauma for you.
Okay.
Trauma is an event which has the capacity to almost instantaneously alter the programming of your brain.
Wow. That's a short right there. Wow. That's beautiful.
Okay. So if we momentarily accept that as a pocket definition of what trauma might be, so now we can include...
Clarify. You're saying that you're going in this direction, you think the world is all like this, and then something happens and suddenly you're heading in this direction. And the world something is different. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a good
thing. It doesn't have to be bad. It could actually be a good thing, but you can't get back to who you were because things have changed forever.
Yep, exactly. So that allows us to then start to speculate what the consequences and the potential management of trauma might include. So let's imagine that Michael's just won the lottery and he's decided to go into business with Lindsay, and all I've got to do is drive to the lawyer's office and sign the documentation. So that's good trauma, right? Now, Michael's generosity is making itself felt, and it's going to change the direction of my life. And so on the way to the signing, I have a terrible car accident and I never make it. And through nobody's fault, that opportunity withers on the vine. Michael has to move on, so he gets Paul Oosterhouse to be his business partner instead of Lindsay Spencer Matthews. I've just experienced multiple traumas, right?
Yeah.
However, unbeknownst to me, that change in direction of my life, which I would never have asked for if it had happened, actually moves me into the orbit of a totally different set of opportunities and outcomes that would never have come to pass if I'd not had that accident on the way to signing the documentation with you.
Yeah.
So the thing that hurts people most with negative trauma is that they experience the impact of that significant disaster in their lives, and it changes the program. It changes the way their thoughts occur, and so they move on with a psychological limp. They do move forward with their life, but what they perceive as the damage that has been done to them negatively interferes with the majority of the things that come afterwards. And so without them consciously evaluating it, what they've done is experienced a terrible life-changing event, And without their intent, awareness, or permission, they have allowed that terrible negative event to flavor almost everything that happens afterwards.
Yeah, I get it. Is that what they call stuck in story?
That's a pretty good description of it.
Yep. Have you heard that term? You know, a perfect example is I stayed with a friend in Melbourne a few years ago, and his wife left him. It was a brutal divorce, but that's all he could do. Every time he met someone, all he talked about. And you meet him 5 years later, and it's the same conversation. He just wants to get on. He hates her so much, and he can't get past it. You know what I mean?
And that's a pretty radical demonstration of it. I'm down the scale a fair way. I'm the person who's had a significant childhood trauma, and I'll use myself as an example because as of the 1st of December, psychologists are not even allowed to reference a client without that client's written permission, even though it's an anonymous, depersonalised reference to the client. So I'll use myself as a guinea pig today. As a little boy, I caught my mother cheating on my father. And now I can't have been more than about 10 or 11 years of age. And my worldview was that my parents were an intact unit. And even though my mum was a difficult person, I didn't think badly of her. And I really loved my dad. And in that split second of recognition, and I could see in her eyes that I had caught her with this other hideous guy. Oh my God, he made my father was a 9 out of 10 compared to this guy. And my father wasn't a 9 out of 10, by the way. I got those genes. But,
I got the 1%.
Now, that was a traumatic experience for a little boy. It completely changed the emotional direction of my life because all of the things that I accepted as bedrock solid were suddenly in the wind. So now, over the 60 years that have passed since that moment, I've undergone a lot of life's experiences and done a lot of introspection and a lot of work on myself. And I didn't even revisit that moment until a bunch of years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I met with a group of psychologists to compare notes on therapeutic approaches that we were using. And one of these people wanted to demonstrate a psychological exercise called the empty chair, where you have the client sitting opposite an empty chair and you ask them to imagine there's a younger version of themselves in that empty chair. Wow. And then the adult has a conversation with the child. And so she called for volunteers. I counted to 10, nobody else volunteered, so I put my hand up. And I really lean into these things. I think if you're going to volunteer for something, you might as well go boots and all. And so I completely surrendered myself to the moment. And so there was little 10 or 11-year-old Lindsay sitting opposite me. And without any preamble or any preparation or anything, this psychologist said, what would you like to say to this younger Lindsay? And it just came out of me spontaneously. I said, everything's going to work out okay. And to my horror, I burst into tears. An uncontrollable flood of tears. And, I've got 8 psychologists surrounding me, so I was in the right place to have a meltdown. But as we processed it, this particular psychologist said, it's a shame that we can't embrace you into some therapeutic model to help you get over this trauma. And that stopped my tears almost instantaneously. I said, what the hell are you talking about? She said, this is obviously a deep wound that needs to be healed. And I said, okay. Is there another explanation? Is it possible that I just relived a traumatic experience that 10-year-old Lindsay couldn't handle? And out of compassion and acknowledgement of his hurt, I wept on his behalf. But adult Lindsay is okay with it. I've long forgiven my mother. I know she didn't choose to be the person she was. No. Like all of us, she was just obeying the dictates of her programming. And so now that didn't make me like my mother anymore, but it allowed me to lift the burden of blaming her for any harm that might have been done to me. And so why would I have no interest in attempting to heal that trauma. But it's a scar that I wear proudly. It's a psychological scar, but if anyone manages to get me into that place again where I can be in the room with that little 10-year-old boy whose heart was broken, I'll probably cry again.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to be an unfeeling bastard. I don't want to lose the pathos of the moment. And so where I'm trying to take us with this, after your very relatively predictable description of what trauma is, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. They're almost always changing things, and sometimes changing things is painful. And sometimes, it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you sit in your lounge room and do nothing, you will change. And trauma is a painful manifestation of change. And so, sometimes painful.
Can I just interrupt you just a sec? I want to refer to what you went through to show you how much of a trauma it is to find your mother like that. There's one of the most famous plays of the last century was Death of a Salesman, where the father idolizes a young son. I think his name is Bud or something. But Bud used to idolize his father, who's just an ordinary traveling salesman. And on one of his trips, he catches his father. He's got a girl on the road. And he finds out. And he never recovers. And he goes from being, a great sportsman and this to basically he's a bum. And that's really interesting. So that it's to show you that Arthur Miller used that trauma to define an entire character, for the play. So that's to show the power of that. And that's his father. I think a mother would be even more traumatic, because a father, you thought, the father, but a mother is even more traumatic. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But Michael, the reason I thought this was a potentially important conversation for us to have with the audience that we have is that there are many members of our community and this audience who have experienced significant Cartesian crises and who have experienced significant trauma from it. And one of the things I want our campfire chats to try to bring to that audience is an alternate viewpoint to something that seems as settled as trauma. That even Miller wrote that it destroyed that young man's life. Now, I want to bring an alternate viewpoint to trauma, because one of the little-known psychological truisms is that for every person whose life is destroyed by trauma, there is a person who's experienced a similar trauma whose life has not been destroyed by it.
Interesting.
About a 50-50 split. It's quite possible for two people to watch the same dreadful thing unfold, and one's life will be ruined by it, and the other's life will be impacted by it, but they will actually be stronger and move on with their life as a result of having observed or experienced that trauma. So it's fascinating to me to wonder what's the difference between those people. And you began this conversation by talking about your eyes beginning to open to the beauty and the majesty of the prosaic world that surrounds you. And it's just a bunch of trees and birds and insects, mate. And yet you've changed your perception of it. That you even wasted 5 minutes of our time showing us a video about the beautiful place where you're at. What a fantastic reframe of an otherwise mundane experience. You're just camping in the freaking bush, mate.
Yeah, the trolls do this all the time, believe me. The trolls are very good at bringing me back to my feet.
Okay.
So, your bum is the usual thing.
So my relationship with the God that I invest my belief in is such that I talk to God a lot. Now, that could be called prayer, but the thing is, I never ask God for anything. I don't believe I've ever prayed a prayer saying, will you give me the tax lotto numbers for Saturday night?
Yeah.
My prayers are almost 100% prayers of gratitude, even in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Because
Laura.
I don't want to be the kind of person who life beats. I'm happy to be beaten down by life, but I'm not happy. I can accept that I'm going to be beaten down by life. But I want it to be a lesson. I want it to be a stimulant. I want it to be an experience. And then move on with the rest of my life. Now, it's my very strong belief as a psychologist that our brains are capable of believing almost anything that is put into them.
Wow. Okay. Well, the history shows us that's true.
Absolutely. And if you start to recognize that as a relatively unavoidable reality, then why would you not start to actively try and have an influence over that? Why would you not look, even in the face of adversity, why would you not look at it and go, hang on a minute, wherever I got my programming from, it's telling me that this is a disaster, that this is a terrible thing, that this thing is going to ruin my life, that I'll never recover from this.
Yeah.
Now, there is a tiny bit of truth in that. But the reality is, you're going to survive or not. But that's part of our journey. Now, and one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of people ending their own lives, other than under a pretty narrow definition of euthanasia, is the people who find the pain of life intolerable to the point where the only way they can end the pain is by ending themselves. That to me is an incredible tragedy. There's an old story about a guy, a South African guy, who got sick of farming, making no money, and so he decided to read up on geology, and he was going to go out and he was going to find diamonds or gold or something. And so he sold the farm and he spent the rest of his life fruitlessly trying to find diamonds or gold or oil or whatever. Do you know the story?
Yeah, no, I often think like that. You know, to be an artist is like that. Especially if you haven't been published. Yeah.
Well, the name of the company that bought his farm was De Beers, the biggest diamond producer in the world. They own all of our diamond fields in Australia as well, by the way. But the story, as I've heard it, is this was their first big strike, and it was this guy's farm. If he'd only put a shovel in his own backyard, he might well have found diamonds and been the richest man in the world.
That's a great story. That's a great story. It's it's a great story. I love it.
So in terms of the weeping years, in terms of the reality and the inevitability of trauma, and in terms of the impact and consequences of trauma, if we as individual humans accept that our brains are malleable, I will know things in 5 years that I don't know today. And there are things I know that I didn't know 5 years ago. That to me is undeniable evidence that I can change what's in my head. So if I can change the data that's in my head, why can't I change the behavior and the attitudes and the beliefs and the reactions that are a result of what's in my head? So that means when tragedy or adversity or hardship or disappointment or heartbreak strikes, it's perfectly reasonable and understandable and almost necessary to grieve it, to give the pain its head. It's harmful not, and in a casual conversation, I might have been on air actually a couple of campfires ago. You made a comment about some cultures wail their grief. They keen. In order to process their grief.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, people in the Arabic states, you know, they do that, or the Iraqi and Iran, the older cultures, you know, they do that. I can't do it. That haunting thing they do. Yeah. But it's the Greeks do it. I know this. They bash their heads. It's interesting. We keep it in stoically. You know.
So what that is a form of social programming or cultural programming where the people from within that culture are taught to expiate their grief, and it works. It doesn't mean that they're uncaring. It doesn't mean that they just shrug off the loss of the person that they loved. It means they actively embrace the grief, and then they equally actively embrace getting on with life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yep.
staggering, isn't it?
Um,
But they don't
so I
keep it
think,
in. They don't keep it in and let them rot the person from the inside. Because what
yeah,
we do, like a perfect example, I'll give you a perfect example. You'll be at Christmas dinner, and say your sister has a breakup in say February, and you feel sorry for her, and you call her a few times, and by about the end of March, you're sort of going, yeah, well, probably time to move on. And she gets the call from everyone. And so the end of March, she's lost her husband. She doesn't know what she's going to do. And she can't talk to anyone because everyone, apart from a few very, very close friends, everyone else is going, well, time to move on. And so she
mhm,
never mentions it again. She goes through life and you think, oh, she's fine. She's doing well. And then you're sitting down at Christmas dinner and suddenly she bursts into tears and leaves the room.
yep,
And so, this is our culture. Keep it in, and then people break. I think this causes a lot of suicide. The people keep it in, and there's an isolation to our society because we're so terrified of what people think of you, but what people think if you do something. But in these countries, you can bang your head and scream and out loud, and you let it out. No one cares. Have you
yep,
seen? Look, I'll show you something. The difference.
mhm,
Okay, how old are you? So you're in your 70s, right?
yep,
Fantastic,
75. Yep.
fabulous looking 75-year-old. You're walking. I'm sitting in a cafe, and I'm watching you walk down the street backwards, hitting your head like this. And I'm thinking to my mate, bloody hell, look at that dementia, poor bastard, But if you were 75 and Chinese walking down the street backward like this, I'd go to my mate, I bet that's good for you. Because the Asians don't care. They're out there doing this. They're doing it for themselves. They don't care. If you think they don't give a toss. They
Yep,
do the selfies, they do the thing. They don't give a toss. I love it actually. There's a freedom to them that they have that we can't access because, oh, well, I can't do that because what will that person think of me who doesn't think of me at all? So we're
yep,
entrapping ourselves, you know?
yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
Okay, the heartbroken sister-in-law that you referenced in your story demonstrates two pretty significant elements here. One is compassion burnout. That because we
Compassion
are not
burnout.
as a compassion burnout, because as a society, Western society tends not to be very good at helping people expiate their grief. That
Yeah.
we hit compassion burnout fairly quickly. So that means my sister-in-law is desolated over her divorce, and it's all she talks about for 3 months.
Yeah.
Now I've been listening to that for about a month and a half longer than I needed to, but because I love her, I've kept doing it. But then I gradually start to withdraw because she's not recovering from her grief. She's holding on to it too tightly,
Yeah.
and so compassion burnout is a reasonable thing because if you don't start to burn out, you start to enable. That if I happen to be the lovely brother-in-law who rings my sister-in-law every week to have her reinvent the grief of her lost relationship, then I'm actually perpetuating the state of misery that she is now habituating.
Mm.
So I think
Yeah.
compassion burnout is a relatively powerful evolutionary thing.
Mm.
But then your sister-in-law story says that as the people that have shared her grief with her begin to fall away out of compassion burnout, she learns not to mention the war anymore. So she goes into denial, deflection, distraction. And like Lindsay talking to 10-year-old Lindsay in the empty chair exercise, the right triggers bring that to the surface. And now in my instance, it was a momentary experience of emotion. But in the sister-in-law's thing, she's broken for another month. That she's devastated for another month because the pain the pain and the grief hasn't been effectively integrated into her life story. It's still an open sore.
Yeah.
So what I want for all of our community, and I want it for all of humanity as well, is I want us to not just survive. I want us to thrive. I want us to be honest with ourselves and say, shit is going to happen. that lovely people like Sean O'Kane they're gonna pass away unexpectedly, and that's going to be terrible when it happens. But there is no other way to live life, because and if we don't find a meaningful way to individually integrate the tragedies of life, then we're not going to live our richest, fullest, and most meaningful life. So where I'm hoping this goes with us, as the negotiating the weeping years, what I'm hoping that you and I might be able to take some tentative steps forward in this conversation is, how do we as individuals and our viewers and our brethren of the freedom movement, how do we negotiate the grief of our loss of innocence, the recognition that the people that govern us are willing to do wicked things to us, that people we thought we could trust have shown themselves to be untrustworthy? How do we negotiate something that is that negatively traumatic and find a way to get through it and come out the other side stronger and better and healthier? That was a question mark, Michael.
God damn it. Your question. There's, Joe, this is really interesting. Because there's been a great lesson for the freedom community, and they tell me all the time now. So I meet so many of them, and they go to me, you know what? COVID was the best thing that ever happened to me. At the time, it was deeply traumatic. We all lost things, friends and family, jobs, houses, everything we thought we needed. And we started this odyssey, all individual odysseys. That's like, on Goodbye Road. That's what I'm saying. We were the orphans of Goodbye Road. We found each other on the road. Like, if I hadn't made the decision to not segregate audiences and go public with that decision, which ended my theatrical career, I wouldn't be in this park. I wouldn't be with Cal. I wouldn't be talking to you about this. And I only reached here through trauma. If I'd gone the safe route and done this and just followed the herd, I'd be somewhere else. I don't know where, but I'm here now. And I'm much, much, much stronger for it. So I think the lesson that the freedom movement can offer the rest of the community is that a lot of them are scared of the pain of transition, the pain of trauma, and actually saying to them, think of trauma like doing a dry dock on a ship, on a yacht, cutting off all the old barnacles, repainting it, tightening, refurbishing the sails, making it seaworthy, making it ready for the storms, and then sailing back out there stronger than you've ever been, with a greater confidence to sailing. Like, I'm never suicidal anymore. I never have those thoughts. I used to have, because of my bipolar, they were just like involuntary. I never have them anymore. I'm celebrating every day. And I owe it to COVID. I owe it to the choices where the government decided, we're going to steal your freedom. And I was like, no, I'm going to hold on to it. Thank you very much. And now I'm the freest I've ever been. And now I'm hoping through this work that we're doing now, because someone asked today, well, what are you actually doing? One, we're still doing these interviews like this, and I'm exploring the human condition. But the other thing that I think we're becoming, by keeping this old 1987 bus with no toilet, thank you very much, going, is we're a symbol of freedom. We're a symbol that you can lose everything and find real life. And now, to tell you about trauma, just if I can get this in, I wasn't going to say this, but this is true. I love what you said about trauma, and it relates to the question you have. I met Kelly, say, 3 years ago, but we've been through things. We are deeply in love, passionately in love. We actually really, and sometimes it's bad days, sometimes good days, but there is a trauma to it. Like, it's life changing. You want to lower, and you're thinking, how can I be like this at 60? You're kidding me? This is something for 15-year-olds. I'm 60, for God's sake. But it's still making you realize every moment on this planet is a moment to be alive, is a moment to grow. if you decide you stop growing, that's your choice, because life is always there to help you explore yourself and grow. And then I thought, if we were on the Armageddon and we are heading towards somewhere bad, why was I allowed to find someone as gorgeous as Kelly and fall in love on this road where I should have just basically crumbled and walked back to the government going, please jab me and let me back in, Instead, now I'm this free budgie who's met another budgie, and we're just flying around the cage going, it's okay out here. It's good. You can survive, You just need to find a toilet. But apart from that, and so this is what we are by showing the things on the road, how we live, is in this new thing, Café Locked Out on the Run, which we're trying to change at the One Lettuce, is actually showing you there is life outside the chicken coop. You can survive. In fact, you can thrive if you embrace it and the other real interesting lesson I've learned is faith. Faith is the biggest lesson I've learned in these last 5 years. From the moment I first prayed on the morning of the shrine, where I said, I'll work for you, to now I've just run on instinct. I get a sense, a feeling, and my brain sort of goes, yeah, all right, whatever. I don't understand it, but let's go. And that's why I've got a saying that the heart has a map that the mind can't read. And so these are lessons. So this is why I'm the best, even though I have my issues, I'm the best version of me that's ever existed in my time on the planet. And I owe that to trauma.
Okay, I've got to follow that with a couple of things. We'll come back to the chicken coop.
Can I answer the question? How do I do? 6 out of 10?
Not bad. Not bad. No, not bad. I think we're morphing into something nice. You're a better version of yourself than you've ever been.
Yeah.
What are you going to be like? What are you going to be like in another 10, 15, 20 years, Michael?
Oh, well, with Kelly breaking my balls, probably sort of in an asylum somewhere, maybe. I don't know. But there's I'm kidding. I don't know. And and that's where I live now. I live in the I don't know. I don't know what's happening in the world. Yeah.
Michael, I know where you're going to be in 10, 15, 20 years.
Okay.
You're going to be in a better place than you are now. You're going to be better than you are now. You're going to be stronger than you are now. You're going to be better informed than you are now. There are so many things that are going to improve. And guess what? They're all going to involve some form of cost.
Yeah.
So life is just because you've reached some perceived nirvana right now, you would be how dare you not look forward to the future and say, wow, if I'm this freaking good now, how good am I going to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah.
How dare you think that you're in some form of stasis?
Yeah.
Now, it's awesome. I think you need to respect and appreciate and love the moment that you're in, and you need to optimize it and exploit it as much as you possibly can. You can't just waste your life living in an imagined future.
No.
You also can't waste your future by not imagining it.
No. And it's the other thing that I'm loving doing is inspiring people. Like George Keswick did his first album ever using AI music because I did it. And he's there and he's selling it and he's over the moon with it. He's got his own music. There's other things like that. And I'm saying, here we are at this older age and we should be just going, oh no, that's not the way you do it, mate. You do it. This is the way we always done it. I'm not thinking like that because the world is changing so fast. You can't think like that. Correct. You have to be open to opportunities.
And I don't want to be a doomsayer, but I think there's room to speculate that we ain't seen nothing yet. And I'm not talking about totalitarianism. I'm talking about financial challenges, societal breakdowns. There is all sorts of interesting potential traumas in the future for all of us. And if you move into the future with an expectation that there will be both beauty and hardship in the future that lies before you, then maybe you get the opportunity to do what you're doing today and looking around your campsite and experiencing the raw beauty of it. And then when the trauma comes, you say, okay, I guess I've got to take my rubs now. I've got to take the knocks. No such thing as a free lunch. what have I got to solve? How have I got to get through this? Will I survive this? Whereas the commonly defined and experienced version of trauma that you began this conversation with, and I thank you for that, is that it's a terrible thing which debilitates us.
Yeah.
Now, there is truth in that observation. Trauma is often a terrible thing, and it often debilitates us. But I want to believe that we've got some capacity to influence the magnitude and the length of time that we experience that debilitation. That if we see it as a thing that is colouring our life rather than a thing that is ruining our life, then we are likely to survive it better and quicker than by just surrendering to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
it does.
So what I want now, there's another thing for the freedom community to try and get its head around. We know we were right on almost all of the stuff that went down over the last 5 years. And I read recently, I wish I could remember the famous person who said it. People will always forgive you for being wrong, but they will almost never forgive you for being right.
Yes, I have heard that. And I think that's where we are now. I don't think there's going to be any shrines built for us. I don't think they're going to have public holidays to remember the brave people of the freedom movement who,
isn't December Dissident Month? Isn't it? I mean, let's face it, it was when Jesus was born and he was one of the first dissidents. So
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yet we still do it. We still fight.
As a community, we need to accept that part of our burden is that we are unlikely to ever be offered any form of apology or atonement for what our community and our neighbours and our friends and our relatives put us through. That's our trauma. We need to accept it, manage it, weep for it, and then integrate it into our history so that we become different and hopefully better and stronger people than we would have been in the absence of having been treated that badly. Because I want to be wrong about what I fear for the people that did not dissent during COVID.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Look, this is a great segue because I've got to play this B thing now. But this is a great segue because the other thing that I love doing is trying to figure out, and you're doing it too, right? I'm always thinking, how can we cement the foundation of our community so the world knows there's another community has arrived. These dissidents who we're a community, and some of us are unjabbed and some of us are jabbed, and now we don't want to be jabbed. We got Wayne on, he does a podcast on Tuesday nights and with us, and so here we are as this brand new community. And that's why I'm trying to capture literature. You're writing a book now, your next book, the music, we were trying that sort of fell over, but we're still doing music. But the other one was identifying each other, because one problem our freedom community has is we don't have hippie, we don't have tie-dye, we don't have a uniform, we don't have a turban, we don't have these things. So we have to find each other. So this is what the Be Free thing is about. Walking down the other, the normies might go, be free. Oh yeah, man, should be free. Thinking, I don't know what that means, but I know what it means. If I see you, I can come up to you and go, g'day, brother, how you doing? And we're like-minded and we know. So this is where Margie McKenzie, who I adore, sent us a load of B bands, and she said, start pitching these. So I'll just play this ad quickly and I'll come back. Oh, I'll stay there.
Feel your secret vibrations like our last fading song. It's time, oh, it's time to be free. I can hear your vibrations like a final human cry. Oh, it's time, oh, it is time to be
This
Awesome.
is where I've got it on here. See, like a little band. So if you don't have the courage to wear the hat with the "Be Free," it doesn't have "Be Free" on it, just the "B." If you don't have you're worn out, you don't want to go into battle wearing freedom on your shirt, but you just want to have a little bit about you, say part of the community, wear this. And people do look at the bands, and then you're out there, and then somebody looks. And I'll show you the most beautiful thing that happened. We first started with 832 here, and I think 832 is the symbol of our destination. We want to live in a world of truth because we can grow from the truth, but we live in a world of lies. So that's our destination. But this is a symbol of who we are. Now, when we started 832, I had this incredibly beautiful story. A woman was in Mitre 10 in some tiny little town. And suddenly this man standing next to her, and he's going, 832. And he looked a bit aggressive or a bit agitated. 832. She said, yeah, because she had on a hat. And then he hugged her. Now, he'd escaped Melbourne and he was hiding in, this for various reasons. I won't go into it. And he was just going to town, very lonely, very isolated. And he saw a ute. And on the back, it had an 832 sticker. So he ran around the store looking for the 832 person, and he found this woman. That's what the B's for. We are not alone, but at the moment we can't find each other because we look like everybody else. There's nothing that defines us and that separates us. And that's why we're looking for gentle symbols that people can wear. Earrings, if you make earrings or anything, or the cap like you, sometimes with Be Free, sometimes just the blue bee. And it's just like a Christian fish. We're looking, because I think there's great strength in us. The more of us accept who we are and be proud of who we are. And we've got a right to be proud, even though the whole world is going to go sovereign citizens, apprentice terrorists, cookers, these things, anti-vaxxers, anti-science, yeah, whatever. Hate, shame. And they're only doing that to make sure others don't join us, And so if we go the other way and go, well, there's our music. When I had my last play on, the Brothers play in Melbourne, one thing I loved was playing the music of the freedom movement, all these songs that no one had heard. And people were coming up to me and going, yeah, the play was great, man. The play was great. That music was pretty good. What's that music? And they're doing it on their phones. And they can't find it because it's not on Spotify. It's not my music. Then this was other artists I was collecting. And that made me think, this is how we do it. It's slow. It's not going to change the world tomorrow. But bit by bit, it will grow. And it'll be unstoppable. Because what we're offering to Australia and the world is, you don't have to go into tyranny. We can embrace humanity and find power amongst ourselves and head off in a different direction. And that's what, like in Nimbin, I interviewed this young homeless guy. He can't, and he's homeless on purpose. He can't live in society anymore because all I'm going to do is work till I die. For what? He's looking for another form of life. This woman from Hong Kong is in Australia on this 6-month visa going around looking for another way to live because she doesn't want to live under a social credit score system. So I believe there's an exodus happening. But at the moment, we don't know where to go with it. And the whole freedom movement, we don't have a destination.
I agree.
We don't know where we're going, but maybe we're not meant to. Maybe we're not the ones that reach it. We're the ones that are just going, okay, we're going to pack up and leave now. We're getting our things together, even spiritually, even if we can't leave our house, spiritually we're changing. And then bit by bit, that's what I hope anyway. And that's why I called the novel Goodbye Road.
Yeah. I'm very strongly connected with all of the sentiments that you expressed there. The one thing that I didn't hear, and I'm sure it's omission rather than disagreement, is the reason that we tentatively call these conversations the campfire chats is it's because it's the safest and least intrusive way to proselytize is to build a cheery campfire in the wilderness and be having a good time around it so that the people wandering in the wilderness are attracted to it. And now we cannot meet them with criticism or judgment or snarls. We have to be a safe and comfortable place for them to land.
Yeah, we have to be the prodigal son's father.
Yes, we understand, we accept, we forgive. But the thing that is pretty much not negotiable is the essence of freedom.
Yeah.
Now, the
other problem we have, though, I have to say, no, I don't want to interrupt too much. The other problem we have, being the prodigal son's father, is there's so many vegans now. So you'll slaughter the fetid calf, and then we're going, oh, actually, do you have cucumber? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you with a dad joke.
I'm sure we could weave the phenomenon of the vegan into this narrative that we're discussing here, but let's just let it slide as a real dad joke and get on with it. So yeah, I think as individuals and as a very thinly spread community, we really need to be giving people opportunities to connect and to be heard and to recognise and then to potentially process their own grief, because denial doesn't make grief go away.
No.
You know, I've had so many clients tell me that they've kept their grief locked in a box.
How do they do that? How do they do that? Is it? I think they never talk about it, but it must be in there. They must sense it.
Definitely. Well, if you successfully trick yourself into thinking that you've got some sort of vault or safe or box that you can hide it away in, then that facilitates you living in denial of it. But it's ridiculous, because it's not that it ceases to exist. And the problem with all of those metaphors of locking it away is that you don't have the only key to release it. That your environment unwittingly might be carrying keys, and without your knowledge or permission, all of a sudden they've opened your vault. Yeah. And as that woman in my own experience, the thing that you've not potentially processed properly roars out at you, and that's an existential crisis. That's and people are in trouble. I would love I think if we're genuine in the freedom community one of the fundamental essences of freedom is that you need to allow other people to be free as well. It's not just, I don't just want Lindsay Spencer Matthews to be free. Yeah. I want Michael Gray Griffith to be free, and I want Billy Bloggs to be free, and I want freedom is but I briefly mentioned to you before tonight that we engaged in a communal activity, which I won't go into now. Sorry? Yeah.
I'll just go back to Ben's clip, just Ben's. I know you don't watch them because we put it this way so you can't see it, but that was just a killer. That's Ben. Ironically, the freebie exodus will be escaping the hive mind. Yeah, we've got to meet up. You got to come on the show, brother. You're great.
Yeah. So it can't. This is where I struggle with freedom, because it's not unconditional. No. That if you are going to expect to be allowed to live in freedom, it has to be a balance of rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
It would be psychopathic and narcissistic of me to think that I need to sacrifice your freedom in order for me to get my freedom.
Yeah.
So,
which is where we are. The trans community is a perfect example of it. I need, or the community of you need to use my pronouns. So I actually have to filter my own things to your pronouns, what? And these are things that's been happening to us, and this has been traumatic to around the world. There's a father in Canada who spent 6 months in jail because he refused to use the right pronoun for his son or his daughter. And in Ireland, a guy, Enoch Burke, I think, is a teacher, Christian teacher, and he spent, I think it's a year in jail, and he's got a huge amounts of fines simply because he won't use pronouns. That's it, And so, it's I get it.
Michael, what I'm hearing you describe there is what I would see as the wilderness.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole bunch of people who are quite happy in the dark. There's a whole bunch of people who don't mind living in the wilderness.
Yeah.
They're not the people that are going to be attracted to our cheery campfires.
No.
In fact, they're a potential threat to us, because whilst they're masochistically enjoying living in the wilderness, they want everyone to live in the wilderness, because if we're sitting around our cheery campfire laughing and singing Kumbaya, that highlights just how miserable they are living in their self-imposed wilderness. So it's not an easy ride, but if we as individuals within a larger community, if we don't buy into this particular challenge, and if we don't find creative, friendly, safe, encouraging ways to reintegrate with society, and I don't know what those ways will be. I've referenced the fact that Sarah and I take our dear old dog for a walk pretty much every morning, and we've got a moving population of about 30 other dog owners who we have these very brief, sometimes long, sometimes we'll spend an hour talking to one of them.
Wow.
One or the other of them. Our walks take a long time some days. But the overwhelming majority of these people, we have gently and inoffensively introduced to the conversation hints of the journey that we've been on. And 100% of them find it safe enough to be able to say, yeah, that bothered me too.
Wow.
And so we've now got this casual group of people who are looking for an opportunity to be honest with themselves and with other people. But we're thin on the ground. We safe recipients of that insight on the ground, because when they go home, they can't talk about it.
Yeah. Do you think that fear really was, I used to say fear is the virus, courage is the cure. In the really heightened state of fear, even I was frightened. You're trying to, because they're just pounding you from all sides. Do you think fear cannot hold on to you forever? At some point, something in you starts to slip, or is it just by individuals? Some people like the adventure, so the fear doesn't have as great a grip, where other people live in fear their whole lives.
Okay, there's layers in what you've speculated there.
Well, you're throwing huge questions at me, buddy. I'm lobbing it back.
Okay, so fear is a very motivating and ancient phenomenon that we've touched on recently.
Yeah.
In general terms, I agree with you that you eventually stop being afraid, unless the environment wants you to be afraid. And we are in an environment that very badly wants us to be afraid. And so that environment finds different ways to startle us and to present us with novel stimuli that reminds us that we should be afraid, and encourages other people to share their fear with us. So the natural exhaustion of fear tends not to occur. And that's a terrible thing to wish on anybody. And it makes people
weigh you down.
Well,
it's like a communist system.
Totally. And it's almost impossible to think rationally when you're in a state, when you're in any heightened emotional state. If you're in love, you are not thinking rational. If you're angry, you are not thinking rationally. If you're scared, you're not thinking rationally. So, and so I like the meme quality of courage is the cure, but I don't think it is. I think curiosity and rational thought are the cure. That if somebody is threatening me, I don't necessarily want to placate them, and I don't necessarily want to. I certainly don't want to fight them, because I can't fight my way out of a paper bag. But what I want to do is understand them. I want to find out why they're so angry with me. And I was confronted with a really angry guy who I'd had a business dealing with, and he had actively dudded me in a number of areas. And so I was now carrying on the business that I'd purchased from this guy, and I was letting it know within the fairly small community that business operated, that this guy had done some bad things financially, that he'd stolen things, that sort of stuff. Now, this guy was a good 20 years my junior, and he was a 8th Dan black belt karate expert.
Oops.
And this particular day, he rocked up at my place of business and his tail was on fire. He was as angry as I'd ever seen one. He was literally hopping from foot to foot, and this is a very dangerous man. And the first thing he said to me was, "How dare you tell people I'm a crook?" Now, my response to that was, and I don't know where this came from, it was spontaneous. I said, "Which are you more upset about? Me telling people that you're a crook or you being a crook?" And he said, "I'm not a crook." I said, "Okay, well, if I defined a crook as somebody who actively took advantage of you in a business deal, who promised you things and then didn't deliver on them, and who actively stole things from you, would they be the kind of things that you would consider the behaviours of a crook?" And he said, "I didn't do any of those things. Here's the receipts, mate. You may not remember that you did them, but you did them." And he said, "Well, you let me." I said, "That's the get out of jail card that every crook tries to use. If you hadn't left your front door unlocked, I couldn't have stolen your TV, you bastard."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, this guy continued to be argumentative and agitated. And so after it felt like half an hour, it was probably 5 minutes. I finally said, "Look, it is really obvious that you're not going to calm down. And there is no way that I'm going to be able to overpower you in any way. And I don't think you'll let me walk away. So if you've come here with the intent of attacking me, get it over with. Then my staff can call the ambulance and call the police, and you can spend a year in prison and I can spend a year in hospital, and that's not going to make either of us feel any better. But either get on with it or get out."
Wow.
And he got out.
Yeah, because you took the bullets out of his gun. You're going, "Well, shoot me or not?" Yeah.
Now, the reason that I share that story is, and honestly, I cannot explain why or how I knew how to do those things. It was over 20 years ago that happened. So I didn't have any of the knowledge that I share on these conversations. But the reality is that's what I want us to do. I want us to be non-inflammatory. I want us to be willing to engage with people, but I also want us to get to the point where if we're hitting a brick wall, we name it and we say, "Look, we're clearly not going to get on." Now, I'm hoping that it never comes to fisticuffs, but I think under those circumstances, if I was in a conversation with a dyed-in-the-wool pro-vaxxer and they were, angry at me for not getting my 15th booster, I think I would try to initiate a curious, mutually exploratory conversation. But if all I was hitting was their emotional refutation of anything I tried to introduce, I'd get to the point where I'd say, "I think we're done here. If it's okay with you, I'm just going to walk away and get on with my life." So
wow, man.
I think as a freedom community, I think we've got at least those three things to do. We've got to be open and generous to other people. We've got to be intelligently curious about what's going on in their mind, in the hope that will stimulate some reciprocity and they'll be interested in what's going on in our mind. And if we hit a brick wall, we stop beating our head against it and we walk away and hope. So that means as we sit around our little campfire and as people come up and say, "This looks like a cheery group," we go, "Well, you're welcome to join it. What's your thing? What do you believe in?" "Oh, well, I would only join you if you're all up to date with your boosters." Okay, well, maybe before you sit down, explain to us why you think we should all be up to date with our boosters and give him the time of day.
Yeah, honestly, I'd be very interested to hear. Jason Cornick says you've got a black belt mouth, Lindsay.
Oh, he is so clever. So
he's
clever.
Great, man.
Wow.
He's fantastic. He's going through a lot of trauma too. Believe me, I'm not going to say it here, but Jason, he's a great guy. You are a great guy, Jason, but he's a bit too tall for my liking. He's about a foot taller than me, which annoys me. But anyway, apart from that, he's a great guy.
I'm immediately suspicious of tall people. So,
he's great. What you're saying is we have to be human beings, empathetic human beings. And that's what I see a lot in the freedom movement. I'm not seeing, they come up to me, "Oh, my friend's got sick. He's got cancer. I told him not to take it. I did everything. He's got sick." And they go, "But I can't bring myself to say I told you so." I feel like they've already paid a terrible price. You know what I mean? I'm full of admiration for our community and how there might be a few out there going nuts and calling people names and calling them idiots, but I haven't come across them. I find people who are still trying to help, who are still trying to listen, who's still trying to stop them going this other way. And, I just see empathy, and I
Mm.
love it. Yeah, hi, Lynn. Yeah. And I've seen it from the beginning when we started this. I didn't see us burning cars. I didn't see us looting stores. I didn't see us doing any of that. I just saw us walking and getting abused, but not abusing back. From the beginning, it's been this beautiful movement of that. I know there's a few things like the trains murder and Desi and a few other exceptions, which, for another discussion. But for the vast majority of our movement or of our community, they're just decently good human beings. That's what I've come across.
Michael, I profoundly agree with you, with one exception.
Wow. Okay.
We have been the people of the rallies.
Some of
and
us,
most
yeah.
of the well, that's been one of the things that's kind of typified. That's been the kind of the public face of the freedom movement, and the majority of those rallies have been very forceful, very emotional, some of it very angry rhetoric, and
Yeah.
that is anathema to me. We will, for every person our compassion invites to our fireplace, the angry, defensive, data-filled rhetoric that we tend to engage in for all sorts of really good reasons. I don't blame any freedom member of the freedom community. I don't blame any of them for being angry and for going, what the heck? Look at all the, I've been awake for 5 years. Why have you not woken up? I get that, but that's going to work against us. That's just going to alienate people. For every person who skittishly moves towards our campfire, 10 will run away if they hear us talking about them as sheep. And I've used the metaphor of lemmings before, and I'm ashamed of myself for doing it. But we have to start to communicate in the language of love and forgiveness and acceptance and compassion and inclusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, Lindsay.
So
I
think we've got the basics. I agree very strongly with you, Michael. I'm proud to be a member of the freedom and dissenting community because the overwhelming majority of people I've met are decent, genuine, compassionate, wonderful people. And they don't want to hate on someone just because they've got a different point of view. But after the onslaught of hate that's been levied against our community, it's understandable that we would want to be able to get some of our own back. We are going to go nowhere if that's what we fall into the trap of doing. And so compassionate, genuine curiosity, I think, is the way to open other people's hearts and minds. If that's what we're fanning the flames of our little campfire with, compassion and love and humor and generosity and acceptance and forgiveness, if they're the things that we're promulgating, then you and I have got a robust adult relationship where we are capable of disagreeing with each other's points of view, but it doesn't stop the brotherly love that we have for one another.
No, that's right. That's what I love about this show. We disagree all the time, and then here we still want to do the show. And that's fading in society. People can't talk anymore.
Yes.
In our community we can, but others can't.
That's because there's so many secrets.
I know.
If you've got all of these locked boxes full of your trauma and your lies and the nonsense you've done and the stupidity that you've done, then it's very difficult to have a real conversation with somebody. And I really want our community to be the one where, as a fairly profound example, the people who did get coerced or tricked or conned into having an experimental substance put into themselves, if they come to us, as they do, you and I have had many, many experiences where people have come and said, I wish I'd never had it. Now, every time that happens, in my experience, I say, my heart goes out to you. I wish that had never had to happen to you as well. what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. It's not an us and them anymore. It's a so what? You did that. You know, let's move on with it. Let's survive it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than keep it a secret.
Yeah. I love it. And this is we are living in a world of lies. Now, everything on social media, no one knows if it's AI or real. There's just lies,
Yep.
lies everywhere. And so the
Yep.
only truth we have is our feelings, our intuition, and our love for each other. Love is the thing that's incorruptible that I'm finding. I know this, but it's to help us bond and grow. This finding, and it's a faith thing, and I do wonder, like, what did someone tell me? Oh, Angela Rojas, who I had on last night. 4 years ago, she used to be a masseuse, medial masseuse, and then had some children. So, and then she walked into a library and found some pornographic books that the state was selling to kids, and all alone, basically, for 4 years, she's been on a journey to try get them removed. And recently, she got a meeting with the Library Board of South Australia, and she won them over with all her dedication. And now they're removing them, or they're putting them in a 15 plus section for children. You have to be 15 plus to look at them. And she's done all that by herself and it's a love for her children and decency and her belief in God. She said, I just kept asking God and he told me what to do. William Bay was the same. William Bay said he always turned to God and he had the huge victory against all the odds. So maybe we are in biblical times. And so now I just have a faith. I think this instinct, maybe I'm delusional and I'm crazy and I'm heading a dead end. But so far, after 5 years of following that voice, I haven't reached a dead end.
Yep.
I just managed to keep trickling through and adding my little bit to the greater dialogue. That's all I really do.
Yep.
And yeah.
The thing that jumped out of what I just heard you say was, if you've got genuine faith, if you genuinely believe that there is something beyond humanity, and I fully believe that, if you believe that, then I find it difficult to comprehend how anybody could knowingly do something to harm other people for their own benefit. If you believe that there is anything after death, then there has to be some reflection on, if I'm going to look back on my life, am I going to look back on this moment with pride or embarrassment? And if I'm going to look back on it with embarrassment, then I need to do something different to what I'm about to do or what I'm doing now. So that to me is where faith takes you. Faith is an acknowledgement that you believe in a higher power. That acknowledgement leads you to the fact that that higher power will know everything about you at some point. And that faith would lead you to want to be the best version of yourself you can be. And if your faith motivates you to be the best person you can be, then welcome to the freedom community.
Yeah, there's my faith, and when things happen, and we have these beautiful things happen often, which sort of helps cement your faith, is a feeling of I'm privileged to have this faith, and my life benefits because of it. Even if other people don't understand it, I am. And I know I'm on the right path, and I just keep going. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm going to be in the grave. Who gives a shit? There's, and if I'm right, this, and I'm not doing it for any greater reward when I reach the end. I just like the fight. I like the struggle. I like being in it. I like this. I do feel, and this is for another conversation. I do feel our community, through its wealth from the pre-war era, has been following false gods, mainly materialism. And I think we're reaching a point now where the materialistic God is just not serving our souls, is not nurturing our souls. And people, bit by bit, are looking for something far deeper and richer to life. And I'm seeing a lot of young kids saying that, like the young man I interviewed, Jamie. And so, anyway, you know, so I'm
Okay.
part of that.
Now, as you know, I don't read the comments, but I
Yeah.
just glimpsed at one that came up. David, I think it was David Deacon. He said,
Yeah.
what if you don't have faith? I think that's a great question. How would you respond to that, Michael? Because I've got a response to it when you're done. So
I never. We'll try and finish by 2 hours. I never used to have faith, David, and I became the playwright I became, not by ever once calling or asking God or even thinking about God. I just worked my ass off, thinking we'd get somewhere, in persistence. It was only after COVID, when COVID turned up, I'd literally spent a year or 2 years reaching my dreams despite everything. You know, I was happy as a pig in muck. And but then in order to remain in my dream, David, I would have had to segregate audiences. And for some reason, this guy who's, you know, never been a pillar of integrity or anything in his life, just an artist, suddenly got out the world and said, I'm not doing that because, you know, segregation is a culture, so I won't participate. I refused to comply. And I lost all my dreams that I've been working for ages. And I still didn't have faith then until the morning of the shrine, where I was so terrified that the police were going to beat the living shit out of me because they'd already pepper sprayed me the week before. And it was so horrific. But I knew if I didn't stay, there was a good chance my son or my son's sons would be fighting real bullets, not rubber bullets. And I prayed that day saying, I have to stay. I know probably people have heard this. I have to stay, but I can't stay because I'm too frightened. So it was like I couldn't leave and I couldn't stay. So I told him, if you take my fear away, I'll work for you. And my fear I still remember it was like someone had flicked off the fear switch, and I just felt strong. And then I just strode through the rest of the day, even though I got shot and beaten up and all the other, arrested and all this other shit. It never fazed me because there was something else inside me, and it's been inside me ever since. And I have all these people come to me, I've got to find Jesus. You've got to find Jesus. I go, well, thanks very much for judgmentally deciding that I haven't, but maybe, you know, who knows? Anyway, so I just live my life by that. I don't preach about it too much to people, but that's the main architect of my existence now, is waiting for intuition and which way to go, you know, with no future at all. Yeah, it's all yours.
Okay. It's an interesting, and obviously, you know, you and I have touched on the evolution of your faith a couple of times, and part of me wants to say, and this is one of those moments where we may find each other disagreeable, Michael, is that I think if your faith is triggered by what you believe to be a message from or a gift from God, then I wonder whether that's true faith.
Okay.
I think I don't doubt that I don't believe in coincidences. I think things tend to, but I also don't believe in a God that is manipulating the strings from Mount Olympus and we're just his puppets. So I don't think you can have two bob each way. We've either got an interventionist God who has designed the universe and he knows where every atom lies within that universe, or you've got a non-interventionist God who, for example, gave us free will and has allowed us to play Larry with a big stick and mess so much stuff up with the exercise of our free will. Now that's the God that I believe in, the God that has given us the gift of being able to be self-deterministic. And so my response to David's, what I think is a genuine question, is I think in the absence of some form of revelationary experience or sign or gift occurring, I think faith is an act of free will. Now,
It's a choice. It's a choice.
Yeah.
My whole life since then, it's been a choice. I choose to believe that these intuitions come from God. Do I know? No. Maybe I'm just delusional,
Well,
but I
and I
choose
think
to believe. And
okay,
so
so I
faith
think
to
I
me is
think
the door.
we're now circling around it and coming back to a point of closer agreement, Michael, which I'm relieved over. I think your intuitions are as close to a gift from God as you can get, but what you're discounting is the fact that it's your free will that is stimulating those intuitions. That God gave you the gift of self-determination. You are incorporating your life's body of work and experience and knowledge into the things that you do, and you are responding to your environment as if there were a God, and that means things tend to work out. And that's what happens when you exercise free will. Now, unfortunately, you can exercise free will in an evil way as well. You can invent a vaccine that's going to cure papillomavirus, and you can make $100 million out of it. And, wow, that's a gift from God. I believe in God. Look, he gave me my knowledge and my... it's really dangerous to say that God is handing out gifts willy-nilly. But, so, yeah, I think we're hovering around the same point, Michael. It's just I'm stuck a little bit on this idea of godly determinism. I want to believe that it's your creativity.
I do not believe that I am any more important to God than a leaf falling off this tree. All I know is I asked the universe to remove my fear so that I could stay, and it went. And because I'd made a promise, I'm obligated to live up to that promise. And I've chosen to believe it's that there is a God and there is a force of good, and I'm fighting on that side. But am I right? Only time will tell. I'll probably go to the grave not knowing either way. But it's a choice that I've made, and I don't really seem to question it anymore. It's quite deep in me. And but to show you another perfect example, I remember I was at Fort Bill with Bill Lober and the mob, and they said, "Where are you going next?" It's just for my heart attack, about a week before. And I said, "I'm waiting for orders." That's what I said to him. A half an hour later, Michael O'Neill calls me up and says, "Michael, I'm going down to Sydney and then to Canberra to do some campaigning. You free?" I said, "Yeah, I'm free." He goes, "I'll pick you up in the morning." And I turned to Bill and I said, "See, orders." That happened, man.
Yeah. And that I think the universe and our environment is an amazing symphony of opportunities and so-called coincidences. And I'm not willing to discount the fact that there might be some godly hand involved in stirring that pot. But I'm trying to divine an answer to David's excellent question. That if something has not convinced you to have faith, what do you do? Well, the pragmatic psychologist in me says that if I want to learn the banjo, I have to take my banjo down off the wall and practice it. If I see these crazy dudes talking on Café Locked Out occasionally and talking about their experience of and their investment in faith, and it sounds like a pretty good thing and I wouldn't mind some of it, then I've got to take it off the wall and I've got to practice it a bit. I've got to speculate. I've got to say, if I had faith, what would change? If I had faith right now, where would my thoughts take me? And my thoughts would take me, well, I have faith that there is something, and I have faith that something has an interest in the leaf on that tree over there, but it also has an interest in me. And that means if, like that leaf doesn't take a holiday. That leaf doesn't have weekends off. That weekend doesn't get leave loading or sick leave. All that leaf is done. All that leaf can do is be the best leaf it can be. And so God loves it. Why would we be any different? Just because we've got free will. Why would we not try to be the best me we can be? And if faith leads you to do that, then why would you not embrace faith? But if you need proof for it, now that's a whole nother story. That's you saying, there's the murderer standing over the victim with the knife. If there is a God, let him stop me killing. Let him stop me killing.
That was the Moors murderer. The Moors murderer said that before he killed one of the children. Ask God to stop.
But that's not a faith-based belief. That's a belief in an interventionist God, and apart from people's intuitive and personal experiences and miracles, there is the only evidence that there is a God is the iridescence on a butterfly's wing.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, well, maybe next fortnight we should talk about this based on David's question.
Cool.
Because an Irish truck driver said to me, a cousin of mine, he said to me, I can't do an Irish accent. To be sure. He said, Michael, there's no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah.
So maybe you got to get a few rubber bullets fired at you there, David. Then you suddenly might find some faith. I don't know, brother.
Absolutely.
But they go from there. Anyway, I've got to call it quits now. Fantastic show, Lindsay. Love it, brother. And we're going to go with the song we started with. And so this is me using AI now. And I've just told you that Emily has taken one of our songs and so is another thing we're looking at now. So here, we're living in amazing times.
Yes, and I love the rework of the song too, by the way.
What's that?
Love the rework of the song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you got to keep Jan happy. Anyway, so take care, Lindsay. I'll see you in a fortnight. Bye-bye.
See you later, everyone.
See you, everybody. Bye.
My father did everything they told him to, lined up and took every single jab. And every time I beg him, Dad, please just think, he'd just laugh and call me crazy. We spread his ashes at his favorite park. I have to say I thought I was out of tears, until his sister whispered into my ear, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Tanya was a nurse working in the bush. She didn't want to take it herself, but because she loved the people out there, she decided to take a chance. Now she's going through a metamorphosis, because Pfizer gave her multiple sclerosis. Now she lives with her mother in the city, like a ghost watching us all forget her. And while she is still too angry for tears, all I could hear in her burning eyes was a broken heart warning me, my love, my poor love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to our weeping years. And no one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. If vaccines are safe and effective, then you must be the thing that's wrong. You're not worthy of state recognition. You're not worthy of any compensation. Not even worthy of a human singing your song. She was 92 and dying in a nursing home, and because her family said no to the jabs, none of them were allowed to see her, so it was clear she would die alone. But then one of her older granddaughters took matters into her own hands. After dark she would break into the home and sneak down the corridors like a thief. Then while the carers were all watching TV, she would climb in bed and spoon her grandmother. She would get into her grandmother's bed and spoon. And even now I can see them there, huddled together like babes lost in the woods. As we our endless madness hurricane around them, as our madness hurricanes. Oh, can't you hear our gods whispering? If you guys don't find a way to conquer fear, then you're just gonna keep traveling down deeper into the weeping years. lying has replaced the truth, and the one lie that they need you to sell is that the system cares for you. And the one lie that they need you to sell to your children